Have you ever wondered why a man who once held your hand so tightly suddenly begins to loosen his grip, as if something inside him has shifted without warning? One day, his words feel like sunlight. The next, they fall cold, shadowed, distant. You tell yourself nothing has changed. You tell yourself love can't vanish overnight. But still, a silent question burns inside you. What did I do wrong? The truth is, most men never say it out loud. They don't confess it in words, but they test. Not with paper and ink, but with silence, with distance, with hesitation. A man can love you and still pull away, not because you failed him, but because he needs to know what you are made of when the ground shakes beneath your feet. He wants to see if you bend or if you break. These secret tests are not always cruel, though they feel like it when your heart is on the line. They are woven from his own fears, his doubts, his need to understand if your love is rooted in strength or only in convenience. He will never announce them. He will simply retreat or provoke or question, watching you quietly to see if you remain the woman he first believed you to be. One test is silence. He grows quiet, not because he has nothing to say, but because he wants to see if you will fill the void with desperation. He wonders, will you beg for attention? Will you drown in anxiety when the texts slow down, when the calls fade into excuses? Or will you breathe deeply, hold your center, and remind him that your world does not collapse when he withholds a piece of himself? Another test is distance. He steps back, sometimes without reason, sometimes with the excuse of work, stress, or needing space. He watches if your mind spirals into panic, if you chase after him with every ounce of your soul, forgetting yourself in the process, or if instead you trust, remain calm, and carry on with the quiet dignity of a woman who knows her worth is not measured by his nearness. Every glance, every silence, every withdrawal becomes a mirror held up to you. The unspoken question is always the same. Will you lose yourself for me? Or will you stay whole even when I pull away? Because deep down, a man does not want a woman who dissolves the moment he tests her strength. He longs, often without admitting it, for the woman who holds steady, who can stand in her power even when love feels like it's slipping. But here is where the ache lies. While he is busy testing, you are busy breaking. You are not a puzzle, not a lesson, not an experiment, but still, he watches to see how much of yourself you are willing to sacrifice for him. He wants to see if you will forget your own reflection just to keep him close. And isn't that the cruelest part? That love, which is supposed to heal, can sometimes disguise itself as a battlefield where only the strongest boundaries survive. So the question lingers tonight like a shadow in your chest. When a man withdraws his warmth without explanation, when silence becomes the loudest sound in your life, when his eyes look past you instead of into you, will you collapse under the weight of his test? Or will you remember that even when love fades, a woman's soul must remain unbroken? Because the real truth is not about the test itself. The truth is about what it awakens in you. There is a moment every woman remembers. The moment when a man looks at her, not with love, not with hatred, but with that strange, unreadable gaze that makes her wonder if she is suddenly invisible. It is the look of evaluation, a quiet test wrapped in his silence. And you feel it deep in your chest, don't you? That creeping uncertainty. Am I enough for him, or has he already decided I'm not? Men will never admit it openly. But beneath their pride and control, they carry insecurities too. They want reassurance, but not always through words. Instead, they create invisible trials, measuring not just how much you love, but how you love. They ask without asking, will you lose yourself in me? Will you betray yourself for me? Or will you hold your ground, even when I shake the earth beneath your feet? One test comes disguised as conflict. He may provoke you, subtly or directly, not because he enjoys the argument, but because he wants to see how you handle pressure. Will you erupt with rage, cutting him with words you can never take back? Or will you remain fierce, yet graceful, speaking truth without venom? To a man, the way you fight reveals far more than the way you love. Love is easy in peace. But will you still choose respect when the storm rises? That is what he's searching for, even if he doesn't know it himself. Another test lies in temptation, not always with another woman, though sometimes that too, but in how he dangles boundaries before you. He might cancel plans to see how much you tolerate. He might flirt on the edge to see if you'll crumble in jealousy. He might even test your patience with irresponsibility, waiting to see if you mother him or demand he rise as a man. And though it feels cruel, though it feels unfair, it is his way of asking, do you see me as a king or as a child? Do you honor yourself enough to call me out when I stumble? Then comes the test of vulnerability. Few women realize this one. He will open a small wound, reveal a hidden weakness, a piece of his soul he guards like treasure. He does not say it, but he watches. Will you use it against him later? Will you dismiss it, belittle it, or try to fix it as if he is broken? Or will you hold it with tenderness, without losing respect for his strength? That moment tells him if you are safe, or if he must close again. And here lies the paradox. These secret tests are not about you failing. They are about him protecting himself from pain he may not even understand. Men test because they fear betrayal, abandonment, disappointment. They test because they want to believe, but doubt whispers in their ear. They test because, beneath the armor, they are just as fragile as the women they sometimes wound. But the tragedy is this. In testing you, he risks breaking you. He does not realize that every silence, every distance, every provocation slices into your spirit, leaving you wondering if love is real or just another exam you are destined to fail. And in the middle of that ache, you forget the most important question of all. Why should love feel like a test at all? Some nights, when the silence grows too heavy and the walls feel like they are closing in, you replay his every word, his every gesture, trying to decode what he really meant. You ask yourself if the smile he gave you yesterday was genuine, or if it was already slipping away. You search for clues in his tone, in the pauses between his sentences, as though love is a puzzle you must solve before it collapses. But here is the truth that burns quietly beneath the surface. Men do not always test out of cruelty. They test because they are terrified of giving their whole heart to a woman who cannot carry it, terrified of being trapped by love that suffocates, terrified of being unseen, unheard, unrespected. So instead of voicing these fears like grown men, they retreat into silence, into distance, into games they cannot even name. One of the deepest tests is time. A man will see how long you will wait, how patient you can be when his affection slows into a drip instead of a flood. He wants to know if your love is steady or if it is conditional on constant attention. But in doing so, he risks confusing patience with neglect, loyalty with self-abandonment. And you, the woman, are left standing in the cold wondering, am I being tested or am I simply being taken for granted? Then there is the test of independence. He watches how you live your life when he is not around. Do you shrink into a shadow, waiting for his call? Or do you continue to build your world, to shine in your own light, to breathe without needing his approval? He may not say it aloud, but he is drawn to the woman who can walk beside him, not behind him. The woman who does not crumble when left alone. For nothing frightens a man more than a love that demands he becomes her entire universe. And yet, the cruel irony remains. While he tests to measure strength, you are breaking under the weight of his uncertainty. You begin to believe that your worth lies in passing these unspoken trials. That if you fail, you are unlovable. That if he pulls away, it must mean you were not enough. And so you bend, you compromise, you bleed silently in hopes that he will see you, choose you, keep you. But ask yourself this: what kind of love is built on constant examinations? What kind of man requires proof of your devotion by withholding his own? At what point do you stop proving yourself and start protecting yourself? Because the hardest truth is this: sometimes his tests reveal more about him than they do about you. A man who constantly tests is a man who constantly doubts, not only you, but himself. And when doubt drives love, it will never give you peace. It will always demand more patience, more sacrifice, more silence on your part, until one day you wake up and realize you have given everything yet still feel like you have failed. And that is the sharpest cut of all. Not that you couldn't pass his test, but that the test itself was never fair. So the question lingers in the dark, like a whisper against your skin. When he sets the rules without ever saying them, when love feels more like a trial than a gift, what do? Do you keep playing, hoping one day he will finally stop testing? Or do you dare to step away and rewrite what love is supposed to mean for you. Picture this. You are sitting across from him, the silence thick enough to suffocate. His eyes are on his phone, his mind elsewhere, and you are left clutching the invisible thread of a love that feels like it's slipping through your fingers. Your chest aches, but you smile anyway, pretending not to notice, pretending not to feel the sting of being measured by standards you never agreed to. And in that moment, a thought burns quietly. Why do I keep accepting love that feels like an exam I am destined to fail? The truth is, every test he gives is less about you and more about the storm inside him. His silence is not proof that you are unworthy. His distance is not evidence that you are unlovable. His provocations are not a sign that you are weak. They are reflections of his own battles, his fear of losing control, his fear of being vulnerable, his fear that love might demand more than he is ready to give. But you, woman of fire, woman of depth, you take his silence and turn it into self-doubt. You take his distance and weave it into stories of abandonment. You take his anger and mold it into guilt. And without realizing it, you begin to test yourself far harsher than he ever could. Am I too much? Am I not enough? Should I change, shrink, soften, bend? And that is where the danger lies. Because love should never strip you of yourself. Love should not ask you to shrink just to fit into the fragile cage of someone else's insecurity. Yet so many women do. They hand over their power piece by piece, believing that if they just play perfectly, he will stop testing and finally love without condition. But here is the secret men will never say aloud. The very moment you begin to lose yourself, the very moment you erase your own boundaries in order to pass his trials, he sees it. And though he may not understand why, his attraction begins to fade. Because no man truly desires the woman who abandons herself to keep him. Deep down, he yearns for the woman who stands tall, even when tested. The woman who can love without losing her reflection. So, what does this mean for you? It means the test is not really his, to give it is yours. When he withdraws, when he provokes, when he questions, will you forget yourself in order to hold on to him? Or will you hold yourself higher, showing him that love can be met but never begged for? Think about it. When he steps back, and you keep living, laughing, building, thriving, what does that say? It says your love is a choice, not a dependence. It says your worth is not tethered to his moods. It says you can want him deeply, but never need him to complete you. And that, though he may never say it, is the one answer to every test that silences his doubts. But here is the haunting question that remains, hanging in the air between us. If love requires constant proof, is it even love at all? Or is it just fear wearing the mask of romance? There comes a night when the ache inside becomes louder than his silence. A night when you stare at the ceiling, your heart pounding with questions that never seem to end. Why must I keep proving myself? Why does his love feel like a prize I must earn instead of a gift freely given? You replay the moments, the laughter, the tenderness, the way he once looked at you like you were the only thing that mattered. And you wonder, was that love real? Or was it only another test you unknowingly passed? Men rarely understand the cost of their testing. They do not see how each unanswered call feels like abandonment, how each provocation feels like betrayal, how each withdrawal cuts into your sense of worth. They think they are protecting themselves, but in truth, they are teaching you how to doubt yourself. They are shaping you into a version of yourself that bends and bends until she no longer remembers what it felt like to stand tall. And yet, even in this pain, there is wisdom. For every test he gives is also a mirror reflecting not just his fears, but your strength. Because love, as painful as it feels, has a way of showing you what you are made of. His silence teaches you how to hear your own voice. His distance teaches you how to hold yourself together. His conflict teaches you the value of calm, of dignity, of not losing yourself in rage. His temptation teaches you the sacredness of boundaries. Even his vulnerability, rare and fleeting, teaches you how to cradle another soul without losing respect for your own. So, yes, the tests hurt. They cut deep. They leave scars. But they also awaken something fierce inside of you, a reminder that you were never meant to crumble under someone else's uncertainty, that you are allowed to say no, that you are allowed to walk away. When love demands you lose yourself, that you are allowed to demand a love that does not question you at every turn, but instead chooses you, wholly and without hesitation. And maybe that is the secret no one tells you. The final test is not his, it is yours. The test of whether you will keep trying to win a love that bleeds you dry, or whether you will rise and say, enough. Whether you will settle for a man who measures you, or wait for the one who treasures you. Because deep down, you know this. A man who truly loves does not need constant proof. He does not test your patience with silence. He does not test your devotion with distance. He does not test your loyalty with temptation. He does not test your worth with conflict. He sees you, and in seeing you, he chooses. Every day, without hesitation, without games. So, the choice begins to unfold before you now. When the next test comes, because it will, what will you do? Will you bend once more, hoping he will finally stop questioning your love? Or will you remember the woman you are? The woman you were before the trials? The woman who deserves more than to live as someone's endless examination? The answer to that question will shape the story of your love, your heart, your life, and maybe, just maybe, it is time to write a different ending. Imagine this. You wake up one morning, and for the first time, you don't reach for your phone to see if he called. You don't measure your worth by the number of words he gave you, or the absence of them. You don't rehearse excuses for his distance in your mind. Instead, you breathe. You sit in the quiet and realize the silence is no longer a punishment, it's freedom. Because here's the truth, no man's test can erase. Your value was never hidden in his approval. Your beauty was never tied to his gaze. Your strength was never dependent on whether he stayed or walked away. These tests, silent, invisible, cruel at times, were never truly about love. They were about fear. His fear of being betrayed. His fear of losing control. His fear of giving more than he might receive. And when fear governs love, it poisons it, turning tenderness into suspicion and intimacy into interrogation. But you are not here to live under suspicion. You are not here to be examined, doubted, measured. You are here to be chosen, freely, fiercely, fully. Think of the woman you were before the testing began, the woman who laughed without checking, who was watching, who dreamed without fear of abandonment, who loved herself without needing anyone's validation. That woman is still here, waiting for you to remember her. She is the one who holds the real answer to every secret test. Not proving, not begging, not bending, but standing. When a man withdraws, she does not collapse, she carries on. When he provokes, she does not lose herself in rage, she speaks with clarity, then steps back if respect is lost. When he tempts fate, she does not drown in jealousy, she remembers her worth and knows she can walk away if she must. When he reveals his wounds, she listens with tenderness, but never sacrifices her boundaries. This is not coldness. This is not pride. This is power. Quiet, radiant power. And here lies the deepest secret. The woman who passes every test is not the one who bends to his rules, but the one who refuses to play them. Because the moment you stop proving, the moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop allowing love to be an endless exam, you reveal the truth. That your heart is a gift, not a riddle. That your love is a treasure, not a trial. That any man who cannot see this is not ready to hold you. So perhaps the real question is not why men test, but why you continue to accept it. What would happen if you stopped? What would happen if, the next time he pulled away, you didn't run after him, but simply stood still, knowing that anyone meant for you would never force you to question your worth? The answer to that question is not easy. It might terrify you. It might even feel like loss. But in truth, it is not loss. It is liberation. It is the beginning of love that is no longer about proving, but about being. And that, Woman of Fire, is where the story turns. Because the final test does not come from him. It comes from you. Will you keep bending under his weight? Or will you rise and finally claim the love that does not test, but simply chooses? And now the story begins to shift. Because after the storms, after the nights of doubt, after the endless replay of his words and silences, you start to see something you couldn't before. His tests, his games, his distance, they no longer feel like mysteries to decode. They look like chains. Chains you've been carrying without realizing how heavy they were. You start to notice how much of yourself you've given away. The way you silenced your laughter so he wouldn't feel overshadowed. The way you softened your voice so he wouldn't feel threatened. The way you forgave too quickly, hoping your mercy would remind him of your worth. Piece by piece, you became smaller, thinking it would make him stay. But all it did was make you forget the woman you once were. And yet, somewhere deep in your chest, a spark remains. A quiet whisper that says, "This is not the end of me." Because heartbreak, as brutal as it feels, is also a teacher. It shows you the cracks you ignored. It reveals the boundaries you never set. It forces you to face the question you've avoided for too long. Do you want love, or do you just want to be chosen, no matter the cost? Here is where healing begins, not when he comes back, not when he stops testing, but when you stop playing. Healing begins the moment you say, "I will not trade my soul to prove I am worthy of love." Because you were worthy before him. You are worthy without him. You will be worthy long after him. Think of it. The same silence that once made you panic can now become your sanctuary. The same distance that once broke you can now give you room to rebuild. The same conflict that once left you shattered can now teach you how to stand your ground. His tests lose their power the moment you realize they were never yours to pass in the first place. And isn't that the shift you've been waiting for? To stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "Why am I still here? Proving myself to someone who doesn't see me?" That is the rebirth. That is the awakening. That is the moment you choose yourself, even if it means walking away. Because true love does not test, it treasures. It does not provoke, it protects. It does not measure your every move. It marvels at your existence. And if he cannot give you that, then his silence, his distance, his withdrawal, they are not punishments. They are redirections. They are the universe's way of clearing the space for someone who will not question your worth, but honor it. So here you stand, at the threshold of a new story. The pain is still there, yes, but it no longer owns you. You feel the chains loosening. You feel the spark growing. You feel the truth echoing inside. I am not a test to be passed. I am a woman to be loved. And with that realization, the path begins to clear. But one final question still lingers in the air, waiting for your answer. When love returns, not his, but real love, will you be ready to receive it without fear, without bending, without doubt? And so, the final veil is lifted. You see now what was hidden beneath every silence, every distance, every unspoken trial. It was never about your worth. It was about his fear, his uncertainty, his unhealed wounds. For too long, you carried those burdens as though they were your own, bending under the weight of someone else's shadows. But now you stand taller. You begin to understand that love is not meant to feel like a battlefield where you are constantly proving your devotion. Real love does not make you audition. It does not keep you guessing. It does not test your patience by starving you of affection. Real love is steady, clear, fierce in its loyalty, gentle in its presence. It meets you where you are, without conditions, without riddles, without games. The final test is not whether you can endure his silence, his distance, his provocations. The final test is whether you can walk away from them, whether you can close the door on the kind of love that makes you question your own reflection, whether you can choose yourself, even if it means standing alone for a season. Because the woman who can stand alone is the woman who cannot be broken. So you release him. Not with bitterness, not with rage, but with a quiet strength that says, "Thank you for showing me what I will never again accept." His silence is no longer a wound. It is closure. His distance is no longer abandonment. It is space for your rebirth. His tests are no longer prisons. They are proof that you are stronger than you ever knew. And then comes the light of remembering yourself, the light of rediscovering the laughter you once buried, the light of rebuilding your dreams without asking for permission, the light of choosing love that does not test, but treasures. Here is the truth, simple and sharp. A man who loves you will not test you. He will choose you. And here is your call. Stop bending to past trials that were never yours. Stand in your worth and let love find you, not the love that doubts, but the love that stays.